right, so this Tribe Talking on a Tuesday with Miriam and my guest, Miss Lauren E. Turner.
Hi.
Hey, girl, what's going on? I'm glad to see you. Yeah. Right? Everything.
Very real.
So, I'm so glad to see you. I'm also glad that you're safe and that the family is safe. I mean, I am speaking in turn. You guys are all safe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and same to you. So relieved. Yep.
Yes. This was a thing, right? This whole
it's still going. It's ongoing.
It's still going.
It's ongoing.
I said earlier, I was like, yo, it's raining. We still ain't got the trash picked up from this last time.
Mm-hmm.
Does your neighborhood smell like Badussi?
Yes. Yes, it does. I will say though that we have seen the trash man come through to pick up trash more regular. Mm-hmm.
I've seen him. I don't know
what they do. What they doing?
But I also have to remember they live here too. So
I know.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to give too much. I don't want to be like, you ain't doing whatever. But anyway,
I have to be real. I would quit. If it was my job to pick up the trash after this storm. I would put in my notice.
I mean, I feel like that's probably what's happening.
Oh. Okay. Well.
Yeah. I feel like that makes sense. People probably like,
nah, I'm good. Yeah.
No, not this time. Especially if they were really affected. Like, you calling me to what? I got a whole family over here. You know?
Yep.
So I'm not so mad at the trash folks. I'm just like, dang.
We need that.
It's tight. You know what I'm saying? It's tight. Tyrone talking about LOL. You know what I'm talking about. He's a Florida boy, so he know. So y'all check in, say what's up. How y'all doing? All right. So like I said, it's Tribe Talking on a Tuesday with Miriam. I feel like that's my thing. I don't know where I got that from, but like recently in the last year or something, like I've been an EO girl. It might last for like, give me a week or so. Let's see how it goes. With Lauren Turner. Now I've met Lauren. We're theater heads. She is theater in one way, what they would call traditional theater, I say. Or at least when I met you, I feel like I met you in the traditional theater sense. So we've not performed together or done anything like that, but obviously I'm a follower of your work, darling. So before we get deep into this conversation, because I know it's going to get real cute, I want you to go ahead and give us your 30-second commercial. That means, who are you? What do you do? Where are you at? You know, what you want us to know.
Cool. I'm Lauren E. Turner. I am the founding producing artistic director for No Dream Deferred NOLA, which is a community-anchored theater production company located in, obviously, New Orleans, Louisiana. It's in the name. And I'm also, I would self-describe myself as a producer, director, and community facilitator.
What is a community facilitator?
For lack of a better word, I making things happen and shake in the community and bringing people together, creating spaces for a lot of different things to happen. Anything from conversations all the way to, I would say maybe even some mediations or planning or dreaming. I like to create containers for movement within communities.
I'm glad I asked because I didn't know. I think I thought something completely different when I read that.
Really? What'd you think?
I thought when you said community facilitator, it was like more about like going into places and like organizational culture development.
That too. But I would say that is too a form of community, depending on the organization and how it operates.
Okay. I'm glad you elaborated on that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Am I the only one who didn't know? Don't let me be out here by myself. Okay. Don't have me out here by myself. Now, I did say earlier, I think I started to say, we've got that North Carolina Connect.
Yes.
Yes. I'm from High Point. You're from Raleigh.
Raleigh, born and raised. Yep.
Yes. And I was like, I remember you had said something about NLO.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, she North Carolina, but she ain't stick.
But what's that mean? What's that mean?
But you corrected me through action. But I was like, because I remember going to NLO for a tournament one time. And they were like, your original oratory will be on the east wing, and your this will be on the west wing.
Yeah, it did have wings.
Like, what in the
hell? I need to talk this. I need to be on somebody's couch. So much of like growing up in Raleigh, I have blocked. Like I have no memory. I don't know what that's about. Like I just don't. People, places, things. I'm just like, huh? I don't know what that's about. But yes, I do remember. Now that you mentioned that, there were wings. There were wings.
It was mad big. It was a university. It was a camp. It was a university campus.
Come on now, I don't know about no university. Now.
I went to T Wingate Andrews. We ain't had no wings, bruh. Well, there's only. I think there was like there might have. It was either 66 or 86 people in my entire graduating class, though.
But did y'all have the trailers?
We didn't need no trailers.
We went to school. I remember we had trailers.
We had trailers in my elementary school. One of my elementary schools. I remember trailers.
Yeah.
I don't know. When did you start doing theater? Did you start doing theater at NLO?
I started doing theater as a young person, and my mother's she had a after school and like weekend conservatory for youth called Unity School for the Performing Arts. Ooh. And she would have it. Yeah, she would hold it at like in this rec center in the project. What was the name? I forgot the name of the project, but it was across the street from Ligon Middle School, for those of you who are from North Carolina, from Raleigh area. But she would invite all of her artist friends, Baba Chuck Davis, and like opera singers and different people, and they would teach us. And we did that, and then we would perform for like the holidays, like at malls, and then performances and stuff like that. So that's where I first started to do theater. And then I remember before the summer before ninth grade, before I went to NLO, which is a performing arts high school magnet, she said, don't you want to audition for theater, for the theater class, like to get into an advanced class? I said, I don't want to do that, because I didn't want to label myself before going into high school until I knew what was cool. So I didn't want to already be a theater kid and then find out theater was whack at the school and then be like, shit, now I'm like in all this theater stuff. But she made me do it, and I placed into a second year class as a freshman.
Nice.
And so it was a really interesting situation, and I remained, because of that placement, at each year I was in a class with older students, and I remained like really the only Black person, especially in those upper level courses. Throughout. I remember too.
That's North Carolina for you.
That's North Carolina for you. I remember our last. So there was only one show I was cast in throughout the entire time I was in school, even though apparently I was good enough for these higher level classes. I remember the senior year, the last show, she chose, what was the name of that show? Anastasia, something where it was two sisters that were identical twins from Russia.
Yeah. Who were you in that?
I couldn't. And I said,
I was about to say,
I was like, this was purposeful. And I remember having to like explain to my teacher that was fucked up.
Yeah.
So like,
that's right. I mean, that sounds about right. I mean, I'll tell you this now. I'm learning about my peer group, especially doing these shows or whatnot. Like, a lot of us did a bunch of that. Excuse me, sir, this ain't right. Like real early. Yeah, like you playing, sir. Thank you, ma'am, whoever. Most respectfully. But I feel like a lot of us were doing that mad early. I'm wondering if any of us like. I didn't have people around me, I think, that were talking back as much as I was, because I was told I was talking back. But now that I'm older, I realize I wasn't necessarily just talking back. I was advocating for myself. Like, you're not going to sit here and just treat me like because I'm young, that like my opinion doesn't matter, or that I don't have like my thoughts don't see what I'm saying.
I was a critical thinker. I was a critical thinker. Which
I was trained to be. Yeah. I
was trained to be. It was put in me. So yeah.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad.
I know, right? I know. Exactly. I was a critical thinker. So it was like, yes, it was talking back. And, you know, sometimes I was wrong in my analysis, like way dead wrong, like just loud and wrong. And sometimes I was spot on, you know?
I'm trying to think of when I was loud and wrong. I haven't done that type of self-check yet.
I was loud and wrong a lot. Like,
well, let me say this. The times that I remember, right, that were the most like the biggest times. I think I'm making a choice to only remember the times I was right. Does that sound right? You know how you say you block things out? Like maybe that's what I did.
Yeah.
Maybe I just blocked out when I was wrong. Or when I lost.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes you just lost the fight. But also, like, anyway, so you started theater with your mom, with your mom's program.
Yeah.
And then you went through high school with it. We got people shaking.
Then I went to college, North Carolina Central, E-Funk, you know.
What is it, the bird? Ain't you a bird?
We're an eagle. We're eagles. We fly high.
I'm sorry. I only know
we fly above the rest. Yeah. And so I studied theater there with the historic theater department there. That theater department was founded by Zora Neale Hurston, little known Black history fact.
Very little known, extremely.
Yep, people don't know that.
Because we don't talk about Central like that.
Well, I think that the quality of the students speak for themselves out in the world, and I'm playing.
I'm playing. I know way too many people that came through Central and are doing very well. Yes, I'm joking with you.
So, and then I went to graduate school for theater. So I stayed on that track. You know, I stayed on that track.
Now, when you started, like, what did you think you were going to be doing? Because I know, for me, I mean, when I went to Hampton, and I went there for English, thinking I was going to be a lawyer, and then I was like, I miss theater because that's what I did all through high school and you know, middle school and stuff. And then when I got to AMDA, I still thought I was just going to be a Broadway star until, you know, life happened, and I was like, oh. Not that I couldn't be, but I was like, I want to do this instead. My actual thing was I moved after I graduated from conservatory. I lived in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and there was an organization there called the James E. Davis Nonviolence Foundation. And they were doing like this gang intervention work, and I came in to support that with theater and literacy stuff. This was a long time ago. But that was like one of the cliques, and then I went to the Negro Ensemble Company. So I'm wondering for you, when did you have your clique?
Well, similar to you, I went to undergraduate school double majoring in political science and theater because my mother's an attorney. I thought I also wanted to be an attorney. I remember my sophomore year, I was almost finished with all of the credits for the political science degree. And I was just complaining to my mom. I said, this class is so annoying and boring. And she said, you don't like it? I said, well, I'm doing good in it, but it's just so annoying. It was one of those things where we had to look up like precedent. Like we had to figure out like what cases are aligned with which laws or, you know. And she said, well, let me tell you this. If you don't like what you're doing in this class, you're not going to enjoy being an attorney because this is pretty much what the job is.
Right.
And for me, that was a click that it was more important for me to find the thing I enjoyed doing so that I could continue to do. I knew that much about myself that I had to find the joy in the work that I was going to do or I would not be successful at it. So I took the plunge then and I dropped the political science portion and continued on with theater. I really thought that I think in the back of my mind, I was like Broadway. But really, first and foremost, from like a more of what I considered a logical point of view, that I was going to teach, right? That's why I was going to graduate school.
I never thought that.
To teach?
I never thought that. I mean,
I'm just, that's what I was going to tell
in my head. I was like, y'all don't even know. I'm about to be.
I think that's what the dream was for me. But what I would say out of my mouth was not seem so lofty, was to say like, oh, I'm getting my MFA so that I can teach. Right. And then what I ended up doing, even in graduate school, was kind of this like art that was deeply connected to whatever space I was in. And and then, as my analysis continued to deepen around why capitalism was so fucked up, I began to have like somewhat of like a little resentment towards the commercialization that is Broadway, and I kind of was like, I don't know why why that was instilled in me as a value, and I don't want it.
I mean, there are many things that I love about Broadway, right? I remember my first Broadway show.
Me too.
I remember my favorite. I remember getting dressed up for, this wasn't my first show, but I remember Cat on a Hot Tin Roof when Debbie Allen directed it with James Earl Jones and Felicia Rashad. And I just remember like being so pumped to sit in and not be at Lion King or like one of the like traditionally Black shows on Broadway, but just be like watching one of my favorite writers, because Tennessee Williams is one of my favorite writers, and then also just being like black, right? And God, I mean, just so I have very fond memories of Broadway experiences, right? But I also have friends who've been on Broadway and toured Broadway shows and who were treated like shit. And I was I was like, I think I dodged a bullet. Now, mind you, when I came out of school, most of my stuff was film. I got a lot more film work than I did theater work because I'm tall.
Yeah, I think too, the art, the aesthetic I was drawn to just wasn't on Broadway. Like the fringy stuff that I began to love, a lot of the avant-garde stuff that I began to really want more of, just wasn't there. The ability to, so it was like, it just became something that it lost its, for me as an aspiration as a performer, I lost it as like this, shiny thing at the top of the mountain, and started to really actively seek out spaces where I could get this other thing that I was craving, that I loved.
Yeah, I think one of the things let's be clear. I think our trajectory is very different in that you actually have like a more experience in those higher institutional theater settings, where I always worked, like I worked with the NECs and the African Continuum Theaters, those more centralized, very Black theaters. And I feel like when I started working with them, it was because I got tired of the thought that like what Blackness was. Right? Like what, like when I was in school, they told me my accent was too heavy, which is so funny because I have no idea what I sound like. And I think I said this the other day. I have no idea what I sound like from the time I open my mouth to when I close it, because I've lived so many places, so like one minute I sound like I'm from Castle Hayne, North Carolina. The next minute I sound like I'm from you just never know. Girl, yeah, Castle Hayne. What you talking about, Castle Hayne, girl? Yeah, that's where my people at. Yeah. But it's like you go from, you be all over, right? So when they told me that, they were like, oh, you're too country, you got to do accent reduction classes. But then when I got out of school, everybody who wanted to hire me wanted a Southern girl.
Oh,
and I was
can I say this? Can I say this?
Yeah, please.
I remember when I was in graduate school, I went to graduate school in Mississippi. I went to the University of Southern Mississippi in the South. And I was literally traveling to New York for auditions sometimes, like callbacks, auditions, stuff like that. I know, not a lot, but like every now and then. And I was getting callback and castings and back to back. And I was like, I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I get to New York after graduate school. And I remember going to these same auditions and like not having quite the same success, or even feeling like, that feeling when you do a good audition. It doesn't even matter at that point whether, you get the role or a callback, you first of all, you kind of know you're going to get one. But then it's like, even if you don't, you feel so satisfied by the quality of audition that you gave. I couldn't quite get that rhythm. And I remember a friend telling me, I said, well, what's the difference between when I wasn't here before and now? And a friend telling me, because now the New York desperation had settled into my poem. You're of this place. And I never forgot that. And I remember thinking, I am a performer, I'm an artist who is very much impacted by space. My own perception of how much space I have, I need it. It matters. And just like my apartment, my art had gotten so small in New York. I have friends who went and their whole world expanded, their art expanded, everything. But my world got like, and my art got like that.
That's interesting. I did New York for 8 years, right? And I'm trying to think of would I be able to relate to that. For me, well, no, because my relationship with my art in New York was, I was really protected. My art was very protected. The people who ended up putting me under their wing were very, what do you think? How do you feel? How does this feel? What do you want to do? What do you want? I had a lot of, and that's kind of just been my life. I've had a lot of that forever. Just people just like, tell me what you think. Tell me what your thoughts are. So I think for me, New York was very much, it taught me how to navigate my own, create my own way. Because it was hard. New York is hard. It's hard. It's expensive. It's mean. The people are mean on purpose. It's like the meaner
people are mean.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm accustomed, from where I'm from, you know. You know, I mean, we're nosy and we talk a lot of trash, but we're nice to each other.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? So I wasn't accustomed to people, you know, that expendability thing. Yeah. But that leads me to this conversation that's been having, and I know you've been very vocal in this conversation around like, you know, Black folks and Indigenous folks, people of color, really kind of figuring out their way as artists outside of this, what is considered the American theater system. And let's talk about that for a little bit. What is your why? I know your why, but I'd love for you to share what your why is on that. Why are we telling people they need to divest?
From predominantly white spaces and institutions?
For American theater in general, which I would say is predominantly white, yeah.
Because it's not serving us. And I mean the collective us. I mean white identified folk, Black folk. It's no longer serving us. And I think that these spaces, embedded in these spaces, are things that are unhealthy and toxic and don't center well-being. And I want to be in spaces that are centering the well-being of the people who make the art.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. I mean, but you know, but I guess my next question would be, you know, so when we're telling people, now I say this all the time, because I know when that thing, We See You White Theater, when that came out, people had asked me like, what do you think about this? And how do you feel about it? And I was like, you know, I think that one, I don't, the actual thing, We See You White Theater, that whole campaign, whoever was running that, they're trash. I think they're trash. I don't think, I'm pretty sure it's like some Ivy League 25-year-old white boy running that. But I could be wrong, but that's what it felt like to me. But the response to it and the amount of people who were very like, I've been hurt, I've been harmed, I had this experience, or I've been seeking this or whatever. I don't have those experiences because I've not participated in those institutions. I've not participated in working with those institutions, right? So it wasn't new to hear. I mean, I assumed those things were happening, right? And I have a couple friends who, but I didn't think it was that widespread, right? Like I wasn't expecting hundreds of thousands of people saying, you're right, I've been treated this way, especially with how many Black and queer and people of color who really keep it going. Like, there would be no American theater if it were not for them. So I'm curious to, you know, from your standpoint as someone who has worked in these larger spaces, you know, when you heard that or when you saw all of that, like, were you relating to them, or were you looking as like someone like me from like the outside in, kind of like, oof, I wish y'all had got out? Or like, are we speaking from a place where we're the outside looking in? Does that make sense?
I mean, okay, so I can definitely relate to the stories of harm in predominantly white spaces. I had a very public acknowledgement of the way I was harmed.
I remember that.
Yep. So I definitely can relate to that. At the time that at the time of We See You, White American Theater, all the things that have happened in this moment, I felt in that moment I was looking in from a place of a majority of my healing had already taken place. Mm-hmm. And you know, to say that I'm completely divested from predominantly white institutions is untrue, because I still do facilitation work adjacent to, you know, for and with predominantly white spaces. And I do that work with the hopes of making those spaces, or helping to facilitate those spaces being safer for Black folk who are still within them. Mm-hmm.
Kudos to people like you, because I don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, but they're still there. And like, I do agree. You know, I had a friend of mine tell me that her view was like, she still works within a predominantly white space because she feels like all of this shit is hers. All of this shit is ours. And you don't just get to run off with the resource and run off with this without, you know, and I feel like ultimately my well-being is more important than all of that. But I do recognize that I think it is not right to continue to perpetuate harm against people of color working within a nonprofit arts organization. Like, it's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous and outrageous. And so, you know, that's the work. And I've kind of compartmentalized that work too. So it's really funny when those two things collide, because sometimes I'll be like in the middle of a the middle of facilitation with like a company organization, and I'll just be like, and this is why all the people of color need to leave this predominantly white space. And I'm like, wait a minute, sorry, two different messages here. Let's talk about how to work together. But like, I do feel like sometimes I'm able to compartmentalize their work. You know what I mean? Like, you're making the decision to be here. I want to support your well-being, person of color in the space.
If you've decided ultimately,
and versus ultimately, I think that part of the answer is divestment from these spaces and the creation of new spaces.
Yeah, I mean, I think, okay, so when I say divestment, right, like, for instance, when I saw that first list of people that signed the We See You list, and I was looking at all the people on the list, and I was thinking to myself, there is so much money on this piece of paper. There is so much access and so much resource and so much money on this piece of paper, right? Now, I can't count somebody's pocket and tell them what to do with their money, but I'm looking at this list and I'm thinking, this list could shut down Broadway and could build its own.
Child. That list, right? Money or no money, could have shut down all shit.
Black. It was all Black and people, right? And so I was thinking to myself, I mean, it was Black and be indigenous, you know what I'm trying to say? Black, indigenous people of color. And I was thinking to myself, theoretically, if there were to come a time where everyone was to say, you know what, we're all going to just pull out and we're just going to, you know what I mean? We're going to revive all of the institutions that were once started for us. And we're going to, you know, we're going to do this thing and it's going to be stellar and we're going to kick it. It would not fail, right?
No,
like
why have we done that?
It would not fail. But I also understand that ingrained, systemic, ongoing, you know, this mentality, this mindset of like, what is good and what is great and all of that, that the likelihood that everybody on that list would ever, all pull out together at the same, together, it's just not gonna, it's just, it's like I said, it's theoretical, right?
Yeah.
But I looked at that list and I was like, whew, that thing was heavy. You know what I'm saying? I was not on the list.
I signed it. What I ended up not liking about what was happening was I really didn't like that post they had that was like really seeping in anti-Blackness. And I just did not understand.
I didn't like it at all. I didn't like the fact that it was, nobody knew who was in charge. I didn't like the fact that it was that half the people I spoke to, friends of mine that did sign, didn't know who they were signing for. They just got a text message asking them for their signature on something. I didn't like the way it was done. It felt
and I just was like, I don't understand how it gets to the point.
I'm sorry, for people who don't know, for people who don't know, there was a movement that started around the beginning of COVID, and it was called We See You White Theater. And it was this very anonymous leadership group of folks who apparently came out of a talking group. I think it was TCG, one of the TCG talking groups or something. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true. And they created this movement, and they asked all these people, these heavy hitters, to sign and say that they were ready to start calling out white theater spaces and institutions, larger institutions inside of the American theater system that were harming Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Now, one of my other big issues with that was they weren't naming names. So like they would say, oh, it would be a person's testimonial that happened to them, but we would not know who the person was that did it. We would not know the space that harmed them. We would not know because they wouldn't call the person out by name, which is how I knew it wasn't going anywhere. Because if you don't say my name, I ain't do it. On the level, you know what I'm saying? Like if you come up in here and there's water spilled on the floor and you say, somebody spilled water on my floor. If you don't say Miriam spilled water, I'm not even addressing it because I don't. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like there was no real call out. And I feel like that was whack.
Yeah. I really just got lost in the fact that nothing about movement work is like without risk, or like I feel like there's risk, and I feel like so much energy was devoted towards minimizing risk to the anonymous leadership. Yeah. And it's almost like if you are in these positions that you're trying to protect, these positions of power, then it's like we are minimizing risk for people who have the ability to change this situation for people with way less power.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing. I saw a sister. There's a woman that I follow who was talking about Black people need to take their kids out of the public education system, right? And I was like, and she was like, I don't have any resources. I don't have a strategy. I can't tell you how to do it or how to protect yourself or how to take care of your kids or how to make sure your kids get everything they need. But we got to pull our kids out. And I was like, that's kind of reckless.
Well, that's what people think about divestment from the white American theater. That's the same thing they say. Yeah, if you can't tell me how I'm gonna put food on my table, if you can't tell me, give me the business plan for the theater I'm supposed to build, if you can't tell me everything, then it's reckless for you to say to leave these spaces. Yeah. Yeah. Like that's exactly what when I was so like, because there was the point where I was very fierce about leave, get out. And that's what the response I was getting so much from people was like, then what? And how and why, and teach me to do it. And then if you can't give me my salary and my 401k, then, but that's what I'm saying, risk. Like something's gotta be worth it to us. Like, like something's gotta be worth it.
And coming from a standpoint of like, I got a kid.
Yeah.
Now
I got 3.
Right.
But at some point, I said, this is not what my ancestors wanted for me. Like, they don't want me coming up in this building being abused every day and beat down and just,
and then having to go home and try to be a mom.
And none of these places are paying you what you're worth. Mm-mm. There was another conversation in this social media group I'm part of where people were saying there's this high-paying like ED&I, equity, diversity, inclusion officer job at some theater that's known for racism, and they were like, but it's paying $200,000 some
to get your ass kicked every day.
I said, I
don't want to have to walk to work. You got to walk through the hallways, boxing people all day. One of the most freeing things for me, and I would say that I don't tell people to become entrepreneurs. That's not something I do, right? The shit is hard. I done got my ass kicked a bunch of times and, sued and all kind of stuff. You go through these processes. But I will tell you, one of the best things about running my space the way I run my space and how I want to, has been that I don't have to fight every day.
No,
I don't have to fight every day if I don't want to. And now, if I were to go into a position, if you hear Miriam say she got a job, that she put her business down and she got a job, it's because the space that I'm going into, I clearly know that when I get in there, I'm going to be embraced and I don't have to fight every day. But I look at people who are like, going into hospitals over it, like mental deterioration.
A lot of people are.
That's where that's where this whole self-care, meditate, nap ministry. That's where all this came from. And self-care.
But you can't self-care. A therapist told me this. You cannot heal in the place you're being harmed. So it's great that your PWI is giving you extra money to see a therapist, or that you get hazard or you demand hazard pay to work there. That's wonderful and everything. But the bottom line is you are delaying your healing by staying in the place that is causing you the harm.
Yeah. Period. Man, I got a homeboy. He cool as shit, right? He's super cool. Ivy League dude, right? And he was talking about my son, right? Anybody who knows Josiah know he off the mark. He rough. I be having to Google. When he walk out the room, I be like, what did he say? What did that mean?
Let me Google it.
What was he watching? But he was like, yeah, if he's coming talking about he does anything less than Harvard or Yale, I was like, sir, do you know what's happening to Black kids at Harvard and Yale? I mean, I get it. If he woke up one morning and he said, Mommy, I want to go to Harvard, I would just have to protect him with every oil I've ever made. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would just have to be, we finna tribe up at Harvard. It's finna be, Harvard gonna be sick of us, okay? Okay? But also, I mean, I would not force him into a place that I know is beating kids up. I remember earlier was it this year or end of last year? I did a thing with Harvard, with a girl from Harvard, a playwright from Harvard.
Oh, yeah. It was so good.
Yeah, and I pulled the girl aside and was like, you all right? And she was like, no.
No, I am not.
No, I am not. She was like, I've got resources, but no, I am not okay. And that was hard to hear. Beautiful girl, really smart girl, talented young lady. I would not be surprised if you don't see her work, somewhere big, somewhere major, wherever she wants it to be.
Right.
But this poor baby has been there for 4 years getting chopped in the throat.
And that's the selling point of all of these institutions and spaces, right? Is access to resources. Right. And I had to do the work inside myself to really dig deep to figure out, where does all that come from? Where does my understanding of my actual worth and what that means, power via access to resource, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to me as a Black woman? Where does that come from? You know what I mean? And it's the reason why, I mean, I had a frustration similar to what you were talking about earlier about if we just all theoretically did this thing. And the answer I got about why we can't is because the work that has to be done is inside work for every individual. And it is spiritual work. It's spiritual work. And like everybody's not going to be able to do that work at the same time with the same capacity for it. So,
it's the same. I don't know if I told you this story, but I was in Senegal and one of the elders was talking to me and kind of kikiing about me being an American, right? And they thought that was funny. After they told me you are Senegalese, it was always kind of like, look at this little American. But the conversation went on to like about how we keep talking about like we come from kings and queens and this and that, and he was like, do y'all know how that works? Like how kingdoms work? Like
all y'all can't. Not all y'all.
He's like, all y'all can't be, And I just was
not everybody.
I mean, I had already, but before I had already I knew somewhere in me that we all could not meet, this and that.
Yeah.
But when I was listening to him, he was just like, why can't you be proud of knowing that you came from someone who was a fisherman and who fed his family and who worked really hard and who did this, or someone who a hunter or this or that. And, that was kind of like a drop kick to the chest.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why can't I be proud of that?
Yep.
Why do we?
Be.
Yeah. Or like when I hear people say, "I ain't my ancestor," you gonna catch these hands. And I'm looking like,
I'm glad people stopped saying it.
They haven't.
What?
It's on T-shirts, girl. They ain't stopped. But my thing is like, you're alive, bruh. Do you know what that means? That means your ancestor figured out how to be here so you could be here.
Survive.
Don't be shit. Watch your mouth. I think that there's something about that. And I actually want to talk about that too, about like, as we are evolving, what theater looks like and how it is healing and how it's helping people and how it's, moving spaces. Like, what does it look like as we're bringing in our own rituals and our own, honoring those folks, right? That are why we are here. Just like you said, you're so attached to space. I think that's also, it's kind of that same thing, like the land, the blood that's in the soil, the people who tilled that land. How are we evoking that real radiant perseverance and love and care in our work? Is that something you think about when you do your stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say one of the ways I describe our work and my work is that it's rooted in Southern Black women's organizing principle. Because my mother, that was her upbringing. That was the work that she did in so many ways. And for a long time, I rejected that part of it as part of my art making, because I thought that made it something else, or like corny or not as artistically valuable. Yeah. Right. And I stopped doing that a long time ago and started to embrace it as what makes my work, and also what makes it my labor, and the fruit of it, a utility for the community. And that's really what's most important to me, and so one of the ways that I'm understanding more and more by and by, as I'm having more of my elders pass from this realm and go on, is that really embracing No Dream Deferred as a utility for community to access their dreams. And like from an artistic point of view, but just dreams as accessible for Black people in general is radical. I'm not just talking about I'm going to go to school to be a doctor, or I'm going to pursue this thing that's going to provide me with a lot of money, but to say yes to literally the dreams that people have been scared to even say out loud. And to say, like,
I'm going to be healthy.
Here's a thing where you can make that thing happen. You know what I mean? Here's something you have access to, people you have access to, resources you have access to, that can make that thing happen. And to radically embrace this idea that in the American South, there are spaces that exist like No Dream Deferred, a lot of spaces that are really strengthened by this idea, specifically of a Southern Black woman's organizing principle.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways. And then also being committed to continuing to explore truly what matters to ways of working and what matters most to Black folk in theater making.
Yeah.
Like, we got the time, we got the space, we're going to make some mistakes, but let's figure out how we want to do this. Let's not just accept what we've been told is the way to do it, because that way has never really worked for us anyway.
And if you're going to make a mistake, you might as well make the mistake on your own terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's freedom to say, like, we're going to make some mistakes and that's fine. We don't get thrown away because we've made a few mistakes, you know? So, yeah.
Guess what?
What?
It's time to play a game.
Okay.
It's time to play a game. I get excited about these because I get to ask questions. Because, you know, the whole thing is this. Yes, I do want people to know about your work. And I do want people to know that, you know, you're doing these things. And everybody who comes on the show, I want people to know about their work. I want people to know they're doing these things. But I also want people to remember, like, we're regular folks who happen to be working in advocacy, who happen to have created businesses and businesses that are advocacy centered and people centered. But we're still regular folks who have real regular stuff.
I'm real regular. Regular.
So here. All right, I still don't have theme music for that. We're gonna work on that.
I like that though. You should record that.
I might. All right, so what's the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you?
A stranger.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. Was this supposed to be quick? Is this like fast? Because I'm not good at stuff like that.
It's supposed to be honest. I don't know if that's fast.
Oh, told me I had toilet paper stuck to the bottom of my shoe as I was walking through a restaurant.
That's real. You know,
they didn't have to do that.
That's real. I remember a lady told me my pants were unzipped. Yeah, that's real. And I was with people that didn't tell me.
Kind.
That person deserves a star. Mm-hmm. All right. What is one dish your parents or grandparents make or made that you wish you could make?
Oh, my great grandmother's chocolate fudge cake.
Oh, that sounds good. You just don't got the recipe?
I do, but it never turns out right because it's vanilla cake, but it's like the icing is like a fudge. Mm-hmm. Like it hardens, like almost like a whole layer of fudge on top. Oh. And mine never does the thing.
She ain't get it.
But my mother knows what I'm doing wrong and she won't tell me.
That ain't right.
I know.
I want some.
It's petty.
It's petty because I want some. Well,
can make it.
You ask her?
I will.
Okay, good. I will. Do you make decisions with your head more with your head or your heart?
Heart.
I can see that. I'm more in my head.
That's good. I wish I had that.
I wish I was more. I always have to like make it make sense. And then I'll be like, what do I feel? It's always here first. What message would you put on a billboard that thousands of people would see every day?
One word, adapt.
That would be the only thing you would put, adapt.
Adapt.
Nice. I appreciate that. I do. Like, I actually do.
Yeah. Just driving into work, like, they go there.
Like, oh, you know what? I might even just drive past it sometimes. What that thing?
Adapt.
Adapt.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How do you want to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as a waymaker. As a waymaker.
You know, there's something about you. I was talking to, I can't remember who I was talking to, so I'm not even going to try to pretend like I remember. Well, I was saying how legacy is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
In theory, and I guess for real. But that when I die, which will happen one day, not anytime soon, guys, don't worry. I'll be here for a while. But just in case someone just in case someone thought this was about to get super morbid. It's not. But you know, like, I think about that and I'm like, you know, I don't really do a good job of telling people what I do in regards to how much people see and experience that my hands have been on, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of times, like, I can see something on TV and I'm like, oh, I wrote that speech, or I, you know, hear about this, and that. And I was saying that was a thing that I either am going to have to fix or I'm going to have to deal with, that my legacy will not, it will not involve a great portion of my work. And it was like around that same time, I was looking at our children happened to go to the same school. And I was looking at this thing that you had put in the I don't remember what it's called.
The dojo?
Yeah, the dojo. And it was like, our family's fine. I just spent this much time doing this, and this, taking care of community, and da, 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 da. And I was like, you did. And I was like, you know what?
No, I was saying I hope everybody else is good.
No, you legitimately said, my family is fine. I hope everybody's well. I just spent this much time raising money and taking care and
I did not.
Holding space for community. I'm not making this up.
No, I did not. I did not say that.
I will swear to God.
That was not me. That was not me.
But it's not a bad thing, is my point. I will screenshot it for you.
No,
you did say it. And my point is,
I did not say that. Miriam.
Do I need to pull it up and read the exact word? You did.
I'm so glad to hear everything's good with y'all. I swear to God, it was not me. It was another Lauren.
You playing with me. So my point is, I thought that when I read it, I was like, you know what? When your time comes, and it's not anytime soon, but when your time comes, there will not be a mistake. People won't get to say they didn't know that you were sacrificing time and things like that, especially because the chat was us talking about being displaced from a hurricane, and you were still, you know, in that space, you were saying, yes, we're safe, and we have also experienced this trauma, but at the same time, I've also been doing this, and this, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, you know, there's a lesson in that for someone, at least for people like me, who don't just actively share, right? Like, and it's not a humility thing. I don't have an issue with humility. Like, you know, like I'm not burdened with humility. It's a for some reason that is not a skill that I have developed yet. So because those same people who would read that in the dojo, which are, you know, parents and this, that, who are
that
community.
Was not in the dojo. You getting it mixed with our conversation.
Baby.
I said that to you. I didn't type that in the dojo.
Why would I make that up and then say it on here?
I'm not saying you made it up. I'm not saying you made it up. I'm saying it's a mix-up. It's a brain mix-up. I remember what you're saying. I did not type that in the school dojo. I know I did. I said that to you on a phone call.
And on the phone call.
But you know what?
But the point is that that's a skill, and I would impress upon everyone to find their way to say, these are the things that I'm doing. I am contributing, right?
And you know what I think of it as? One of my mentors just passed, Adela Gautier, who's a storyteller, actor here, and she would oftentimes call and share her seemingly her accomplishments, but what it really is building an oral tradition. It's the passing down of oral story, so that no matter what's written about me, I have clearly in my own terms shared with the people who matter most to me what it is I was doing and why.
Yes.
So it's not.
That's why I said there's nothing wrong with it. It's a skill.
Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. I did not put that in the dojo, but maybe I'll go back and do it now. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna put all this in the dojo.
No, I don't want you to do nothing because I'm gonna pull up this dojo. I'm gonna screenshot it to you first.
I promise you.
Don't you pull up that dojo.
You ain't gonna find it. You ain't gonna find it.
Girl, but like I said, it wasn't even it wasn't aggressive. It wasn't like,
right,
this is what I'm doing. It was like, you are very accustomed to letting people know, I'm accessible in some way, in this way, because that's how it read to me. It read to me.
Yeah,
we've been raising money and holding space for community. So if I was someone who would read it and I needed it, you would probably
could reach out. Absolutely.
That's how it read to me. It didn't read like, and we out here doing this. That's not how it read to me.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
Yeah. So I thought it was so. Like I said, I think it's a skill. You're so funny. I'm still gonna screenshot it for you.
Please do.
I am. And don't go deleting that. To put your phone down.
Delete it. How dare she put my?
But okay. I did this with D in my last call. Where we did like we ended on a one. Oh, we're gonna be done. What happened? Girl, you done went out and came back in. What happened?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Why you ain't used this one the whole time? The rain got you. The storm got you.
All right. Can you hear me?
No? I can. Yeah.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything?
Okay, now I can. Okay. Sorry, you know how this internet goes.
I was about to say, it's raining here, y'all. We just got through one, and here comes another. But I was like, why you ain't use this, whatever you're on now? You look so crisp and clear.
Oh, really?
This lip is popping. Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. So I was saying that time is winding down.
Yeah.
But we're gonna end on a one-word sentence. Well, not one-word sentence. One-word story. You know how where you go, I say a word, you say a word, I say a word.
Okay.
Until we have felt we have told a story.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start.
Then
there
was
a
small
bird.
Indeed.
That
bird
flew
higher
than
all
the
rest.
This
was
the
only
bird
to
ever
resist
Ooh. The
wind.
We did it!
I think that bird's in trouble though.
Poor bird. Why did he leave his flock? Okay, so
you can pray for the bird. Pray for the bird in the story.
Pray for the bird in the story. All right, you have to tell us what you've got coming up next, where everybody can find you, what we need to be looking forward to, and boom.
Sure. You can find us on our website, www.nodreamdeferrednola.com, deferred, DEFERRED, NOLA.com, and on social at NDDNOLA, both on Instagram and on Facebook. Coming up next, we are coming back from a month of rest. The Dream Team and No Dream Deferred is coming back. We're going to be relaunching our Writers Lounge program, which is a virtual meetup for Black and Brown writers across the country to write together, to share space together. And we'll also be interviewing writers from all over the country as well, monthly. And then we also are gearing up to be in production for Lydia Y. Nichols' newly commissioned audio play, Don't Look Away, premiering in the spring, workshopping this fall.
Yay!
Yay!
That's a lot. That's a lot.
It is. It is.
Good.
I didn't even say all right. I just left it.
Wait, is there more?
No, there's no more. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh. You sure?
Yeah, we're good with that. We're good with that. Yeah.
All right. So, and I believe next week we have on Tribe Talking with Miriam, I believe we have Jessica Solomon from Art and Proxies, Baltimore. Stellar, dope chick working in philanthropy and art in Baltimore. Can't wait to have her on the show. Lauren, it's been a wonderful.
I love you so much. I love you so much.
You too. This has been fun.
It's so fun.
This has been fun. So make sure you follow No Dream Deferred, NDD NOLA. That's N, D as in dog, D as in dog, N as in Nancy, OLA as in apple. On Instagram, also No Dreams Deferred on Facebook, and check out. Just stay tapped in, man. They've got stuff going on, like she said. And also look into their they have a mutual aid fund that is raising money for some NOLA artists right now. So when you do tap into their feeds, make sure that you toss a couple ducats in the buckets, and support some Black, Indigenous, POC artists in the city. As you know, the storm has passed, but it has not passed because another storm is right behind it. And it is going to take some time for folks to get back to normal. So the more help we can get from the folks who are watching, the better. So it has been another Tribe Talking on a Tuesday with Miriam. And I love y'all. And I will talk to y'all soon, aka next week. Yeah, I did it. It's still here. Bye.